Yeah.
Call this meeting the Brown County Commission to order. Commissioner Piker, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Our item on the agenda today is going to be Erica Coughlin, our HR Director, walking us through a few potential handbook changes. How are you today?
Good morning.
Morning, Erica.
Okay, I have a packet for each one of you. Just read down that way, and I'll just read down this way.
Morning, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Sorry.
There's a bunch of chairs in this closet.
We're not, I don't think it's been
Yeah.
brought to get paid yet.
You're not wanting to stay that long?
No offense, but.
None taken.
Okay, the first one I put on top here is the weather emergencies. I have the current and then the proposed. So currently, the handbook has, in the event before adverse weather conditions, employees are unable to get to their workstations and the department operations of the county are closed down, employees will be able to be allowed to take vacation and sick leave if they choose or cannot make it into work. Employees who are required by nature of the position, Sheriff's Department, dispatch, highway, landfill, emergency management to work their full shifts when departments are closed because of adverse weather conditions shall receive 1/2 day leave to use at the employee's will. Any shift that has been completed before the closing time shall not receive any additional compensation. So that's what's currently in the handbook. An email that was sent out back in March of 2019 says the employee shall receive 1/2 pay, which will be entered as normal hours, and then the employee shall use 1/2 day of vacation or sick for the other half of the day. Employees who are required to work their full shift shall receive 1/2 day vacation leave to use at the employee's will.
So we have a policy and a directive that are in sync at the moment.
Correct.
Can you remind us the email was sent out by who?
The email on March of 2019 was sent out by Gary.
Okay. I would suspect at the direction
Of the commission, yes, and I do have a copy of that if you guys want to see.
Okay. All right.
The proposed says that the chairperson authorizes the closing of Brown County offices in case of a severe weather event. Non-essential employees are not expected to report to work and will be paid for the day at the employee's regular rate of pay. So if you're closed a full day, the full-time employees would get 8 hours. Part-time employees would get 4. If you're not scheduled to work that day, you get 0. If you're closed for a half a day, then the full-time employees would get 4. Part-time, you get 2. If you're not scheduled to work, you'd get 0. All essential Brown County employees, as designated by department heads, will be expected to report to work as usual unless directed otherwise. Individual employees may be unable to report to work. The department head will have the discretion to record the time off as vacation or allow the employee to make up the time. In the event where the employee may need to leave early due to weather conditions or unable to report to work, even though the county offices remain open, the department head will have the discretion to record the time off as vacation or allow the employee to make up the time. Weather-related closing announcements will be given to the local broadcasting media.
And admin leave, define that.
Admin leave will just be leave that is given to us by the county commission.
And you get paid for it while you're gone.
Yes, correct.
I like the option on where the department had the discretion to give the time off as vacation or allow them to make up time, because you kind of choose to live where you live, but yet you're giving flexibility to your boss if you have to leave early to get home or... Any questions on that proposal? Comments from those in attendance on that proposal?
Yeah, well, I'll start it, I guess, but I get the point, and I don't disagree with you on that point, but what I disagree with is the 24/7 people. You're telling them that the regular employees, the 40-hour weekers, can stay home for 8 hours, and the guys that are 24/7 can come to work for pay. So you're telling people to stay home for pay, or you're telling them to come to work for pay. So that we have to dig out, go through the snow, got to get here for pay. Whereas the old one at least gave some incentive, say, okay, if you dig out, you get here and can help us staff the jail, staff the deputies, you got a half a day of vacation as an incentive to do that extra work to get out, whereas the regular employees don't have to dig out, they don't have to go anywhere, they can stay home in their pajamas and they get their pay. Whereas the 24/7 people have to go to that extra effort to get out. What if we're short of jail staff? Are they really going to want to dig out to come in for regular pay? Or just stay home in their pajamas and not help us out? For those that are in the county that can't get here, we rely on the people that are closer to do that extra effort, and they should get a little extra something, as the original directive was.
I'd echo that response, just, for the fact I can't close the dispatch center. I have no, and I need to make sure, whatever means necessary, we have our staffing there. So I have to be very critical of what we're doing, as far as making sure they don't say, you know what, I guess it's not really an option for us. We can't, I have to make sure one way or another. I mean, we have, set up with the deputies, if they do need rides, deputies will come and get them if they have to, but I just want to make sure that they, there's no loophole there to make them say, according to policy, I don't have to be here, so I want to make sure that that's clear in that policy, so I don't want to give them, I can't have that option of them not showing up for work, so I just got to be careful with what we do there.
I think what's going to happen with them is to stay home. What's the incentive to come to work? Where it is, we've got some incentive on the policy that we have in place now. And I don't know how the employees feel, but I know they came to me and talked to me. And
Kathy and I, benefit from the proposed is, handful of the staff at the sheriff's office that would be deemed non-essential. There's only a few of us. But for our colleagues that have to go that extra mile, I really think it incentivizes and would really hurt morale if they saw some of their colleagues in the department getting to stay home, receiving a full day of compensation, and not even getting just that little bit more.
I couldn't look at them in the eye and say, too bad for you. I couldn't do that.
So the difference is, it used to be, we have an option, we leave it as it is, and now those that stay home get part of a day's pay, right? And those that show up get their full day's pay because they're actually working it, and the others are getting half because they're not working any of it. Or we change it to what we're looking at, the proposed, and you're right, it is, it hurts incentive there. How many times in your 2 years as chair did you close the courthouse for weather-related?
one full day, and I believe one started at 10 and one started at noon, so 3 times in the 2 years.
In 2 years.
And that was extremely tough winters. Last year was a tough winter, and these 2 storms they had this last time weren't, anything she'd probably want people out on. So those would be I believe it was, the one I had the biggest problem was the one I had at 10 o'clock start.
Sure.
That created a real issue with payroll and timekeeping and stuff, so you almost need to make a decision that a noon start or all day. Anything in between just doesn't work, because it was a disaster. So that's my 2 cents on that part, is we have to be cautious. Either a half a day close or you're closed the whole day, nothing in between.
Everything in our payroll system is based on 4-hour chunks, not 2-hour chunks.
Well, due to the system and doing that was a mistake on my part to start at 10 o'clock, but I learned a lesson.
Yeah.
And the other thing is we just don't close at all. And if somebody can't make it in, they have to take vacation time.
That's how the city does it, isn't it? It's
But
so
all of their department heads have to live within a certain range
Sure,
of their work
sure.
area also. But I can hear the next comment from the employees is, well, there's no travel advised and you expect me to come to work.
To which the answer would have to be no, but we expect to take your vacation.
Yep.
Isn't that kind of a wash if you use the 4 hours? If I have to give up 4 hours of sick leave or 4 hours of vacation time, you give it to that person that is working and they can take the 4 hours off at will. Isn't it just a give and take kind of deal? It, you see where I'm coming from? It's not like it's going to take it away from me, but the person that's working is going to benefit from it. So the county is taking away from me and adding that to the next person that's working. So it evens out. Did I explain that right? Probably not.
What's wrong with it now? I mean, why are we looking at...
Yeah, they only do it once or twice. I mean, it's just...
Yeah, it doesn't
It-
affect,
it-
it
I
doesn't
mean,
affect a lot of days.
Is there a financial reason?
There was some questions because the email was sent out, but it was never updated in the policy handbook. So part of the biggest problem is we need that policy handbook online, accessible to everybody, updated, and that hadn't been done.
That would be good, because, either that or have proposals, we can all get together, have a department head meeting, decide, and then put it in place 10 days later or something, so we're going, yeah, we all agree to it, or can we do it this way, or can you do it that way? I don't remember seeing the email, I probably got it, I get 100 emails a day, but
Right.
I think just the notification online would be great, and then that way you can look and see what's current and when it was. I know the book now, when I open up, it shows when it was updated on the bottom, and that's perfect. That way you go, well, that was in place at that time, and that's what we'll go by. And if you want to change it, then you change it, and then that date will come into effect, and that's the way the policy will be.
Well, I
Some were
think-
having difficulty taking that out of their desk drawer, and maybe it was from 5 years ago and going by the
Yeah.
wrong policy, so that would fix that.
The policy manual is on the internet, under HR. And
I
if-
think
if
maybe
she-
we need to read.
If she's changing
let
it
people
in
know
the same
that.
place we used to, then it's always updated.
Yeah. Commissioner Feldheim, did you have something?
I believe one of the other issues is the timekeeping thing with trying to balance the payroll. Anytime we do that, it gets to be a real nightmare to figure the hours out for probably the department heads and also for HR. That's another part of the puzzle, is why this was looked at, is every time we have a closing, it gets just to be a disaster for the next payroll. And the problem you have, it isn't bad if it happens at the first part of payroll, but if it happens the last day before payroll, it's a total disaster to try to figure that payroll out when you close the office a half a day and your payroll's due the next day. There's more to the parts than you realize, that it's just not about that. It's trying to get payroll done for 175 or 100, 200 people. When you close that 2 days before payroll's done, how do you expect their department to get those checks out? So what happens is, the last time we did this, it was on a Monday, where it was a holiday. People were jeopardizing not getting their payroll deposit in their account. It came very close, so you got to take that into consideration also.
My staff worked a holiday, actually. I
Right.
called them in.
So you're putting pressure on another department because you're helping this department out, so where's the balance and all that? I guess that's the thing that I struggle with sometimes.
Well, we work all holidays anyway, so I mean, it's all no different to us, it's 24/7 world.
If we have a
40
written
years.
policy though, and it's in the policy manual, it should be fairly well cut and dried, shouldn't it? I mean,
And that's what we're
if
working on.
if this is the way it is, this is the way it is. You should know what to put your time in, or your department head should
Yeah.
know
And that's
what your
they're
time
wondering.
is to be able to fix
And
those
that's-
issues.
That's why they're wondering now with it, that's where, way to do
Well,
it.
we'll apply to, because Kathy and I do a majority of the sheriff's payroll. What we're applying to 12/30, with our payroll being due at 5 p.m. today.
We haven't did payroll because of this fact.
But they'll get it done.
We will.
Other questions?
So what do you guys think it should be? I mean, it's a tough call because you're paying people for not coming to work, but it's a dangerous situation and some people gotta come anyway. There's plenty of room to change some things here, but it does say all essential Brown County employees as designated by their department heads will be expected to report to work as usual unless directed otherwise. So you get an individual case basis that says your schedule, you need to be here. As a department head, it's your discretion to say, I understand you can't make it, I need to figure out how I'm going to cover that and do that, or not.
And that's what we were saying, though, is if we incentivize, like the past policy was, is that if you do dig out, you do come in, you get that extra 4 hours to use as your own will to take off at some point, we get more people more willing to get out there behind the scoop shovels and to get to the jail, get out on the road to help out is what we're saying, is to try to incentivize, not de-incentivize the employees for those that have to get out in the cold and do their thing versus snuggle up in front of the TV and not move an inch, you know.
Well, I think that, like we talked, the current one is good and doesn't get used very often. I mean, it's not that big of a thing, but I think it's all an understanding that we all have, and that way we can get the essential people there to service the people in the county, you know, for
Yeah, from the dispatch world,
dispatch center and deputies being out there.
I have a fair amount that live out in the country, you know, that are, you know, travel in, you know, every day, and so we do get those blizzards, and there is no travel, and there's no way they're getting into work from where they are. You know, I have to call it, you know, in-town personnel, and then most cases the deputy will go pick them up and then bring them in, you know, so, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I just got to make sure we have the ability to make sure we have our staff there, one way or another.
I mean, we just don't close. I talk with Scott talks to National Weather Service. We got the deputies out to see what the roads are like, and if it's just absolutely impassable, don't go out there, because then we spend all the time going out looking for these people and other stuff. I mean, how many did we have that last year, for the last snowstorm, we had people that we had to go find?
Over 75.
Yeah, I mean, and so that means we're out there. Thankfully, we got a Humvee that can get us around, and farmers help us with plowing. I mean, it's worked quite well for us, but...
I have a question on how you define the workday when you give the incentive. It's easy for an 8 to 5 department to define the workday, but say somebody works 3 to 11 p.m., do they also get the additional 4 hours of pay? Like, how do you define when the day?
Well, it's in that 24-hour period. That's when say when they close. That's what we go by, just like a holiday. You come to work, the holidays celebrate at the midnight one night to midnight the other within that 24 hours.
So if the weather were to clear up or roads were to get plowed, is there any way you redefine when they get their bonus for coming in?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Whatever their schedule should be.
I'm just curious.
It's
Yeah.
just during that
Schedule
24-hour
shifted on
period.
that date.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's ever got plowed out.
Well, and the other thing we have to remember is there was a couple times in the snowstorms, they were over weekends and holidays, where the regular staff was not here, so you guys didn't close. Our people still had to try, even though there was no travel advised. We still had to try to get people in here, but there was still no incentive whatsoever. The only time we get the incentive is if this place actually closes. So if it happens on a weekend or a holiday when it's closed here, we still get nothing.
Yeah,
We get no incentive whatsoever. All we're asking for is on the times that you close the offices here, that our people get that extra 4-hour incentive. That's really the bottom line.
So you're proposing the email that was sent out, you're good with that? The March email, where everybody's treated the same, they're all paid for the half day. If they have to work, they still get the half day.
I think that's the one. I can't remember. There's been several different versions. I
That
don't remember
4
which ones
hours
are
you
which.
get paid,
It would
and then
be,
you
yep.
have to use 4 hours sick leave or 4 hours vacation?
Yep.
Okay.
And that
I'm
treats
fine with
everybody
that.
with the 4 hours. Everybody's equal, whether you come or you don't come. If you don't come, you're still having to use 4 hours of your time. You get 4 hours. If you do come, you still get the 4 hours to use at your discretion and other times.
Yep.
There's a little
I think that's
incentive
fair.
both ways there,
Yep.
I mean.
Yeah, right.
So we're looking at the bottom of page
Yep.
1, but I still think it needs to be worked into the official policy
Okay.
manual and maybe the language. Would anybody, are you guys thinking otherwise, or what is the commission's desires on that?
No, I agree. I think it needs to be integrated into the policy rather than just a directive.
For those that didn't save the email? Any other questions on that one? We probably need motions on each of these to change the policy manual then.
What I'll do is I'll go in and I'll add this
Okay.
in, and then I'll come back to you guys
One
next week
thing.
with the new proposed, yeah.
Any concerns about what we're doing on that one?
So
we,
for,
we do the payroll now, what, 4 hours pay and 4 hours vacation or sick?
Just as it was on the day the policy was on the service, right? That's
so
we-
what they're questioning is the December 30th date that
I
we
think
went
we
forward.
already gave them the whole day for 8 hours last week.
Yeah. So do we just want to take, so if we give these guys the incentive, do we just want to add 4 hours on to the people who worked that day? Or do we just want to leave it as was given on last Tuesday? Right now it's just, okay, right now it's just that 8 to 5 staff are getting their 8 hours. And the jail is just basically as is, or the non-essential employees as is. Do we want to leave that for that December 30th date, or do we want to go back and add that half a day in for the 24/7 staff that worked, add that 4 hours in?
That was the policy at that time.
Yep.
Right. So whatever was written in policy or directive at that time should be what we live by.
You guys made a motion last
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Last Tuesday. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but this happened the 30th, not now.
Yeah, but the motion on Tuesday was for that. On the
So,
30th, pay admin the 8 hours, everybody else essentially nothing, we had a report to come in. So the question is, since we're halfway through payroll right now, do we give them the 4 hours?
Well, it's under the policy that was in effect at the time, yeah.
I understand what we
changed the
did, I
policy,
Well, you
understand.
can't do that. You
Yeah.
can't
I
be going
understand what
changing
we
the
did
law
last
and going
week.
back 2 weeks later. This is the new law, well, then you violate 2 weeks, but
So
actually
the
goes
question
in
is,
effect
today,
today.
do we make a
That's what we're
motion
looking at.
to,
Rescind that motion last
or
week.
do something
Right.
different?
Then how bad does that mess up payroll?
Except everyone the payroll's done is already put
Because the
in
motion we
8
made
hours
last week, if
for-
I remember, was much more generous for the employees.
And we can't change it to match the email because we can't go back and ask all these employees to pick vacation or sick leave. So the
Right.
question is, do we give everybody the 8 hours pay, and then now do we add in the 24/7 departments and give them their 4 hours bonus holiday, or admin leave, whatever you want to call it?
That would probably be the easiest.
That
Just
would
leave it
just-
the way it was for everybody that
leave it
you
at
already
8 hours
gave, and
and
then
then
just
add the 4
add the
hours.
few people that actually worked that day, that extra incentive.
Yeah,
Seems
that's
like
my
the
question,
easiest.
should we do that?
All right. I think that would be the simplest avenue to take.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Do you
the
need a
policy...
motion for that?
I was just gonna say, the email that Gary sent out back in 2019 was after the date that was closed. So it didn't match what was in the policy manual, it was after the fact that that decision was made for a previous date that was closed.
Gotcha. All right, then if we choose to do the extra 4 on top of the motion from last week, then we need a motion for that.
I would move that. I'll second it.
Motion from Sutton, seconded from Fikert. Any questions on what we're doing?
Everybody understand what we're doing? Kathy, you have a good grasp of how to handle it?
Yep, sounds like we are going to add the 4 hours of vacation to those 24/7 employees who actually worked on this day. Everyone agrees with that?
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and you'll update this one for us?
Yes.
Great. Okay, policy change number 2.
And just, you'll share that with us in advance as well as the department heads,
I
so they have a
can.
chance to have feedback
Yep.
on it, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Next is holidays.
Yes, next is holidays.
They're always fun.
They are.
Okay, top one is the current on how it is written in the handbook. The next one is proposed.
Holiday list is the same.
Holiday list is the same. Really, the only thing that changed here is removing the bonus days out of there and treating holidays and then the additional holidays that the commission gives us as just holidays, not bonus holidays.
Thanksgiving Day, if you're gonna write it out, 4th. Look at how you spell 4th.
Oh,
Fix that.
thank you.
No, you're good.
Then if the holiday falls on a this is no different than what it previously was, but if the holiday falls on a Saturday, it is observed the preceding Friday. If it falls on a Sunday, it's observed the following Monday.
But ours is the same as we observe the holiday the day it falls on. So if it falls on a Saturday, we observe it as a Saturday. That's what we do now,
Okay.
right? I mean, we have to
That's
visit
really
certain things, people work
Okay.
24/7, and that's the way it is in the policy.
Just another day to them.
Right, but if,
Except
like,
with the
that's
pay.
what we have, if you're off Saturday, you get Friday off, if you're off Sunday, you get Monday. you
Makes
know.
a difference.
If you're regularly scheduled day off, you get another day off. But-
It makes a difference in that 24/7 world because
Yeah.
they get, if it's their scheduled day off, there's a holiday or a vacation factor in there.
Yeah, if
And
it's
so
your
they
regular
always
scheduled day
observe
off, you
it
get
on-
another day
And it's
off.
written in the sundial that way.
Yeah.
So,
That's what we
Just
got.
an example, if you're scheduled to work Thursday through Monday,
mhm.
then the common terminology is Monday's my Friday.
Yeah. If you're scheduled on, Monday's your day off, and it's a holiday, then they get 8 hours of vacation, because otherwise, if they got paid for the holiday, it put them in an overtime
Yeah.
situation.
Right.
You can't
So
do that.
it's cost saving for the county that way, and that's why it was written that way.
Okay, and that's where we're running into issues is the 24/7 or the sheriff's department 24/7 staff is using those holidays as overtime. And that's where we're running into a pay issue.
What you get is if you work as a deputy now with the 10-hour shifts, you get, but any time you work, you get your holiday pay,
Yeah.
right? And if you work between that midnight to midnight, any hours you work, if you work 2 hours, you get 2 hours overtime. If you work 10, you get 10 hours overtime. If you work 18, you get 18 hours overtime. That's the way the policy is.
Okay, so in here I have it wrote for essential employees, the full-time employees, the number of hours worked on a holiday is at time and a half, and then you get up to 8 hours of holiday at regular pay. So if you work 2 hours on that holiday, you get time and a half for that 2 hours, plus 2 hours of holiday at regular pay.
No, you get 8 hours of holiday,
8 hours
period,
of regular pay.
and then you get time and a half for
She's
every...
just saying if you work 2.
If
She's
you,
giving
if
you an
you,
example
the
of
way
2
it is
hours.
now, because we've been through this many times on this payroll thing, is the way it's stated now, or the way it's written now is, if you work on a holiday in the 24/7 world, sheriff's office, that group, or dispatch, I think is the same way, you get your 8 hours of holiday pay and time and a half for every hour you work in that 24-hour period.
Yep.
So if you work 10-hour shifts in that 24-hour period, you get your 8 hours of holiday pay and time and a half for the hours you worked on the holiday. If it's your regular scheduled day off, then you get 8 hours of vacation, because if it's your scheduled day off, you're already on a 40-hour shift, and that would put you in overtime just having the holiday. So
Is
that's
that
why
part of the policy changing?
That's the way it's always been.
That's part of the policy changing, yeah.
But that's the way it is currently.
It says it in the policy.
Yeah, no, I'm asking if that is
That should
changing
be
in your
changed.
proposed policy.
Yes.
What is it changing to?
It would be the hours worked, so the hours that they worked on the holiday, they get time and a half for those hours.
Which that piece is the same.
Yeah. Well,
You got the old one there, can you read it out loud?
Actually, hours worked, you get time and a half, is currently how it is.
Right, that's all.
Yep,
It's just
so that
changing
part
that.
doesn't change, but the part that might be changing is the extra holiday pay. Isn't it capped at 8?
yes.
Or
it
is
should
that
be
how it is
capped.
current?
That's how it is current.
So, okay, here's how it reads. Each January, the Brown County Commission may announce bonus days off under the following conditions. Each employee will be compensated regular pay for the number of hours on the designated bonus day. If an employee is required to work a full shift on the bonus day off, the number of hours will be added to their vacation record. Under no circumstances will premium pay be paid for these hours. That's where we're running into, is
You're talking-
when an employee is, when a number of hours are added to their vacation record and they're getting paid premium pay for those, we don't know, there's no way to decipher whether they're getting premium pay or not. And that premium pay to me reads as overtime. So in the 24/7 world, they can use their sick and vacation time towards their overtime. So if they work 80 hours, they can add another 20 hours on a sick or vacation and get overtime for those 20 hours. Here, we don't know
And
if,
that shouldn't be
I don't
allowed.
understand that.
Is that on just
What's a
bonus
bonus
days?
day isn't a holiday. A bonus day is like Friday after Thanksgiving.
yep, and that's why we're
You don't
trying
get
to
anything
remove
extra,
that
yeah,
bonus
but you don't
day.
Change is gonna be
extra.
get rid of the word bonus day, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be a holiday.
It's a holiday.
Additional
The way the holiday
holiday.
is staying the same. I think that's where everybody's confused.
Yeah.
Yeah, the holiday's staying the same, what I understand, but if you
We're getting
work
rid
a
of bonus day
bonus
and make them
day, your
holidays.
pay will be the exact same as if you worked a holiday.
Right.
So there's
So
only
it's the
one
same
rate
thing.
of pay for bonus day and holiday.
That makes sense.
Bonus day, you don't get
Erica?
any.
Yes, bonus
Yeah.
day is what you get treated same as holiday.
Same as holiday. So if you work a
Yeah.
bonus day, you get your time and a half plus your vacation. So if an
You get your 8
employee
hours of-
only worked 2 hours on that holiday, they would only get 2 hours of time and a half,
Actual work.
yes. Plus they would get
2 hours of holiday.
2
at
hours
regular
of
pay.
holiday at regular pay because they're working on that holiday.
So if you're not, so you're treating it different than a holiday and you don't get 8 hours for a bonus day.
You do if you work 8 hours.
If you work 8
The
hours,
example she used was 2 hours, but it's in here, 8 hours worked, gets 8 hours holiday at regular pay.
You can't have more
So it's just
holiday
regular
extra
pay.
hours than what you worked. You
But it's
can't come
plus
in for 2
time and a
hours
half.
and then have, yeah.
If you work, okay.
So if you don't work, you get 8 hours of holiday pay.
You get 8 hours either
So it's
way.
just like a holiday, so you get 8 hours of
No,
holiday.
now you're
pay.
saying if you do work,
But if
you're
you
not
work
getting
in
your full
there,
8
then
hours
you
of
get
holiday
time and a half
pay.
for the hours that you work.
Exactly,
Okay.
plus the 8 hours regular pay.
You get the 8
So
no
it's just
matter
like a
what.
holiday.
Okay, you get your 8
Right.
holiday,
Bonus
then
is
you
a
get
holiday.
time and a half for
Exactly.
every hour.
Standard holiday, but it's just designated in addition
Okay.
to normal holidays.
I didn't understand that part when Erica said it.
It sounded like it matched the number of hours worked for holiday. If you work 2 hours, you get 2 hours of time and a half. Your holiday pay, hours at regular pay, would be 2 hours. So you're no longer getting 8 hours at regular for any time worked on the shift.
If you
Anytime
work
worked
8
on-
hours, there's 3 examples, 2 hours, 8 hours, and 10 hours. So the 8 hours, you get 8 hours, and 10 hours, you also get 8 hours. You never get more than 8.
What about less than 8? An example of less than 8. Do
2
they-
hours gets 2.
So it matches, rather than if you work, currently it's, if you work 2 hours, you get 2 hours at overtime, 8 hours at regular pay. Anytime worked, you're getting that 8 hours. So we're looking to make the number of hours actually worked match both in regular pay and in overtime.
Correct.
So then you compensate by the rest of those 6 hours in vacation? Make it even with everybody else?
If
So
you
it's not the
choose,
same.
or you don't have to if you've already gotten your 40 or 80 or whatever,
No, I'm
right?
saying everybody else gets 8 hours of compensation on holiday. Everybody, right? No matter who, they all get 8 hours. A regular employee gets 8 hours, right? Where does
full-time
the
employee.
24/7 get that extra, that 8 hours somewhere? Either by pay or by giving them extra 6 hours of vacation to get 8 hours.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Right now, you're jipping the 24/7 people out of 6 hours with that example, right? Because if they work 2 hours, they're only getting paid 2 hours of regular pay and 2 hours of overtime pay. Where's the other 6 hours? Everybody else gets.
Erica?
I see what you're saying there.
So they either have to be
So you just-
compensated with 6 hours of vacation on their books
Yep.
or get paid for that full 8 hours.
Should just treat it as the
Okay, so-
bonus day should be just like the holiday then, and it should be under the same thing. If you work it, the hours you work, you get time and a half. Otherwise, if you don't, plus if you get the regular 8 hours of holiday.
So under that essential
Say if you-
employee,
So
Same
the 2 hour example was a bad example then, probably. It should read 2 hours work on that holiday at time and a half, plus 8 hours of holiday at regular pay.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I don't
whatever
even
you-
think you need the 3 examples. You could say any hours worked on a holiday will be paid at time and a half, plus 8 hours
Of regular
bonus
pay.
or regular pay.
Right.
For any, regardless of how many hours
Okay,
you
so
work.
8
Whether
hours
it's
of
2,
regular
4,
pay.
8, or 10.
Okay.
Basically, what it comes down to is every employee that's full-time gets 8 hours of holiday pay for a commission designated
Correct.
holiday.
Right.
If you work that day, you get time and a half of the hours you
During
work.
that 24
That's
hours.
basically what it amounts to.
Plus the 8 hours of regular holiday day.
Yep.
Well, that, everyone gets that,
Exactly.
regardless of whether you work or
Exactly.
not.
We just need to make sure the policy properly reflects that.
Right. So you could simplify that by just saying any hours worked on the holiday will be paid time and a half, so whether
During
it's
the-
2 hours,
during the
4 hours, 8
24
hours,
period.
or 10 hours.
Yeah.
plus 8 hours regular pay.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll go down to the part-time employees then. So if a part-time employee were to work 1 hour, they should get 4 hours of holiday regular pay then, correct?
If that's what they earn for holidays.
Well, they should get their holiday regardless of whatever it is, and then paid time and a half
But
for
if-
whatever they work.
But if they work 6
Permanent
hours,
part-time,
They still only get 4 hours of holiday
Right.
and 6 hours of time and a half.
not just a regular part-time. A permanent part-time earns the vacation or sick leave. A lot
That's-
of your part-time
that's
people
what
do
we're
not
taking out.
earn vacation or sick leave.
that's why we're taking that vacation and sick leave piece out. Is they're not earning anything into their vacation anymore. It's strictly gonna be that time and a half worked plus that holiday regular pay.
Right.
It's flat
That makes
compensation,
perfect
period.
sense.
And it will be at half the normal rate or the
No, that's
full
just for
rate?
part-timers that only earn 4 hours for the holiday. Full-timers earn
Okay.
8.
So I will adjust this, send this out to the commission and department head,
Perfect.
okay?
Any other questions on proposal number 2?
The part-time employees, just so we're clear, is you've got
Yep,
1, 4, and 6. Will it only
So it'll
be
be
4?
4, yeah.
Right, maximum
Okay,
4,
yeah,
okay.
yep.
I just wanted to verify that.
Don't we have a question on the 24/7?
The 24/7 program.
Yes.
The last couple of holidays, they might have worked as little as 3, but Erica, in conversation with Erica, we also added 8 full hours, the holiday. So we gave them 3 hours at overtime and then gave them all of the 8.
And that's the same with the part-time home detention people.
So they should only got 4 then?
They-
Or how many
Well,
hours? They're part-time?
right now in the policy manual, it says work on a holiday, this is on the bottom of page 14 here. It says any employee required to work on a paid holiday observed by the county will receive 8 hours of regular pay plus time and a half for hours worked in a 24-hour period. So any employee required to work on a paid holiday observed by the county will receive 8 hours of regular pay plus time and a half for hours worked in a 24-hour
So that should
period.
be any full-time, is what that should read.
Yes, in this new one, that's why it's broken down.
Okay.
8 hours and part-time.
So we do this, it'll fix it.
Yes, yes. So yes, the last holidays, they were given, the 24/7 staff or any part-timers were given that 8 hours as regular pay plus time and a half for the hours worked in that 24-hour period.
Sure.
And they're welcome.
So is it gonna go back to,
4 hours for part-time, like we just talked about.
is that permanent part-time or just part? And part-time?
It's just,
Or the-
doesn't it fall into just who qualifies for holiday
Right.
pay and vacation? I mean, because some part-timers don't qualify for any benefits, right?
Right.
Correct.
And they shouldn't get the holiday pay
But
because they don't qualify normally.
that's where that part-time needs to be clarified in the handbook.
Yeah.
So that's another one that needs to be redone. But to me, we should have a full-time employee and we should have a part-time employee. And then a temporary employee. Those temporary employees aren't getting any of those benefits, but your part-time employees should be getting that holiday pay and that time and a half pay.
Because most, but not all of them are permanent part-time.
Correct, and that's where that vacation and sick leave falls in. So that's where that kink was coming in, is we were adding that 8 to 10 hours into vacation hours, but we had part-time employees who didn't receive vacation and sick leave. So that's where it was hard to add those vacation hours in. So we had some part-timers getting additional benefit above and beyond the other part-timers who weren't eligible for that vacation time.
Okay, questions on that one?
So does that fix the issue of, and I just looked at one payroll, this particular individual, 24/7, worked 52 hours. They had 2 days vacation and 2 days sick they took. Put 4 hours overtime on. Is that gonna fix the issue? I don't believe that person should have got paid 4 hours overtime.
That's the next issue.
Oh, okay. I'm jumping the gun.
You are.
You're segueing into it.
Okay, issue number 3.
Okay, this would be the overtime and exemption. I do need to go through and adjust non-exempt employees and make that read correctly, and the exempt employees and make that read correctly, but the biggest change right now that needs to take place is the non-exempt employees under the vacation and sick. And there's only the current policy, because the proposed piece is just basically taking that paragraph out, is what's proposed there. So it says vacation, sick, and holiday used on normal scheduled workdays will be counted as time worked when calculating overtime for sheriffs, field deputies, jail, JDC, HD, home detention, correctional officers, communications center dispatchers, and state's attorney support staff only unless the Brown County Commission approves special circumstance. All other employees' vacation, sick leave, and holiday benefit cannot be used to extend the length of a normal workday or incur overtime. So what I'm proposing here is to take out the vacation, sick, holiday, all that is crossed off there. And then just change that paragraph to employees' vacation and or sick leave cannot be used to extend the length of a normal day or incur overtime.
I mean, that's something that I did, and I don't know if you were commissioner, I know Mike was, I think, did that years ago because of what was happening with some investigations. Say, ours is an 80-hour, 2-week period instead of 40. So you get a guy that, and it just happened, but that doesn't matter, but that works 70 hours the first week during his 2-week period and has vacation for all next week. Next thing you know, the guy's gone from his family for almost the whole week, and they were going to take a vacation, and then all of a sudden he gets no overtime because of that vacation time. And I understand where Doug's come from, but it doesn't happen very often. But then I don't think it's fair for the employee to work 70, 80 hours in 1 week and then all of a sudden doesn't get paid any overtime because he had vacation for the next week. And that county commission at that time agreed with that. That's why that was. And that doesn't happen very often at all.
But he would still get overtime for the 80 hours he worked in 1 week.
No, because where's the 80-hour work? Ours is the 80-hour 2
The
weeks.
fix would force them to week to week,
See,
and then
that's
it
the
would
problem.
fix
If it was that way,
Or-
then that would be fine. But what happens is they work all that. We've had that happen, and we just haven't had it again. And fortunately, the investigator flexed his time, which he didn't. He flexed his time during the weekend because he worked during the weekend, so we didn't get any $1.50 an hour. He just flexed it. But he was fair with that. He was all right with that. But that's the reason that I did that years ago, and I don't know if Mike remembers that.
Lately.
Well,
Is there a way
the only reason I
that the
remember is because I
department
put
head
in
can
there
just
because
allow
that
that
happened.
comp time so they don't have to use their vacation, but we're not paying time and a half for vacation?
And we can put that in here.
Because that would kind of fix that where
I just
you
want
as the
something fair
department
where-
head
you
could
see
say,
what
yeah,
I
I
mean? I mean,
understand
you
how
work
much
a
you
week,
work, and I
that's
saw
just
that
like-
on your payroll.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
you just take your week and you don't have to use your vacation.
And in
Well,
here,
but
Rather
you're
than
gonna
paying
also
time
run
and a
into
half for
time-
hours not worked.
It
You're also
does say
gonna run into
department
some
heads have
people
the
that
authority.
are maxed out on their vacation, though, then what? What do you do? They don't take time off, so you either make them lose their vacation or you allow them to take their vacation in overtime. But remember, when the guys work 70 or 80 hours in a week, they got more daycare, they got families that aren't going to ball games, they're not able to go to family events either. There's got to be some give and take in the 24/7 world where, you know, everybody around here gets to go home at 5 o'clock and they get to go to their basketball games or their soccer games, and our people are out working in some of the worst conditions ever, and yet they're not getting that little extra compensation. It doesn't happen all the time by any means, but when it does, they should be able to have some,
Flexibility.
yeah, we should.
Well, I understand the fact that in a 2-week time, the guy's at 76 hours, and he wants to take a day vacation. But when you're only at 52 hours in an 88 period, that's a lot of spread to be using 2 days vacation. I think there's a big difference between somebody working 52 hours that 2-week period and somebody that works 76 hours in that 2-week period. Now, how do we decipher that is a $1,000,000 question, but I just looked at the one that I seen and I thought, well, how can we pay somebody 4 hours overtime when he's only here 52 hours actually on the premises?
Then we could do it down to a 40-hour work week like we do for the 8 to 5 staff.
Well, that I guess would have been my
Sunday to
question,
Saturday,
why
Sunday to
is
Saturday.
the 24/7 on an 80-hour, and the other one, everybody else is on 40 hours?
So
How does that happen?
Well, I don't know the answer, Mark might be able to, but I do know some of that does give us some flexibility for them to flex the
And they
next
do
week.
flex time.
Because a lot of the guys do love
They
to
don't
flex
take the
if they
overtime.
can, in their life cycle. They can flex, they love it. And so that gives us some leave. Otherwise, in that 70-hour, we would be stuck with paying overtime for sure for that week. they don't get that extra luxury to go to next week and say, yeah, I do want to not have to use my vacation, and then that just helps all of us.
I know one of them for sure, that's what he does. He just makes sure it's 80 hours. If he's over, he'll take time off.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? I mean, we looked at
It
that.
does.
And
So-
it doesn't happen very often either. It's one of those things that I just don't feel they should be penalized for working their tails off for that week, trying to do what they need to do to keep the peace in the county and protect everybody, you know, to get a case done, and then all of a sudden, bingo, well, now I lose all because I have vacation.
So is it, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so is this like 2 people, or is this more than 2 people?
As far as
people who work 70 hours in a work week?
it depends on what goes on, I don't know. I mean, we've had both investigators, yeah, when we had all those fires, they worked.
Yeah.
You know, they work nights and, well, I can't get into it, but things they had to do.
But yeah, that makes
to
sense.
catch these people.
Where with it 2 employees, allowing them to flex adjust is easy. But if you have 20 employees who are working 70 hours in a work week, then it's a little,
Yeah,
a
we
little
don't
harder
have,
to
we don't
them
have
to work
70 unless
adjust.
we have something like the snow thing we had for 2 days, what were we out? One day you and I were out for about 10 days, 10 hours, and the deputies are out because they have to be out. And Scott was out, and we're all looking for people that were missing or stuck, and same way with dispatch, where all of a sudden you can't get home, you gotta have other people here. So it doesn't happen all the time, it's just, if it's a incident that happens and they have to work, to me, they should get paid with that, the way it is in the policy.
So those people with an 80-hour designated work week, they must be exempt employees. Is that correct?
The 80-hour work week?
If that's their designated work week. And can we designate the hours in a work week? Or isn't that dictated by the Fair Labor Standards Act?
Mm-hmm.
If 40 hours is a work week.
Yes.
How can we have some be 80?
You can pick.
In my opinion-
You can pick, what is it, 40, 80, and then, oh, you remember. we
Law
talked about that
enforcement has
before.
different
Yeah,
rules
it's exemption.
than
Okay, so they're
the rest of
exempt
them.
employees.
I can't.
Well,
I'd
they're
have to
not
look it up.
exempt employees, they're still non-exempt employees, but like law enforcement, they work
Treated
43
differently.
hours, and then anything after 43 hours is overtime.
But where does this 80 hours play in? That's the part I'm confused by.
In the first of 2 weeks, ours is a 2-week, 80-hour, 2-week period. If in that first week...
Oh, a 2-week 80-hour period.
Correct.
I'm
But
sorry.
in that first week, they worked a homicide, or they
Sure.
worked something big.
They work 70 in the first week.
Right.
Exactly, that's what we're trying to
I'm
say.
sorry.
I'll clarify that
I
right
didn't-
now.
When you say an 80-hour
Law
work week, I was
enforcement's
thinking that was a
on a pay period,
work
and the rest
week,
of it's
not
on a
2
40-hour week, right?
There's
As
still
far
a
as
40-hour
overtime.
week.
Right
Right.
now,
Yeah.
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 It's just,
So is it possible and reasonable, since it's an exception, to allow for that exception by the department head in consultation with the HR department to lock a week down in those circumstances, since it's a rare exception, but when it does occur?
What do you mean lock a week?
Say, for instance, if they actually work a 70-hour week, and in the example that Mark was talking about, they actually have scheduled vacation for the next week, to allow them to lock that first week at 70 hours
I don't see why not. I mean,
and
we
take
need
that
to-
vacation?
it's just something that doesn't happen very often.
So you
but-
say lock the 73 in the first week and then take off the vacation so they don't have to use it in comp time?
Well, they can go ahead, they can choose. They can use the comp time if they want to the second, but if they want to take their vacation and they want to take their vacation, rather than having the vacation show up as overtime, but simply just to take their vacation, they're locked into getting their 43 plus the difference to whatever happens to be 73 at overtime for the first week. And then their second week, partial or full, whatever they're taking vacation, is simply straight vacation time. Because it's a rare exception, but it does happen and needs to be addressed,
Yeah.
to allow for those exceptions on an individual case basis by the department head in consultation with the HR department.
And so that's why I'm trying to figure out if it's just your investigators, I think that's easy.
Normally it is, but there's times when we also have to have, it's just like,
Is it the deputies too then?
right, where we have
Okay.
a fire or something, we have to have security there 24/7.
Yep.
One example's gonna be this spring when it's flooding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're all gonna be working 14, 15-hour days, right, Scott?
So, so in
There's the
Sundial,
optimist.
would it be easy to lock say the investigators put them down to a 40-hour work week versus an 80-hour work week. And then would your, changing the deputies over too? Because
From a program point, let me ask you this question. So currently, like everybody on the non-law enforcement end of the world, if you work 40 hours or you work 80 hours and then take vacation, that vacation doesn't add hours for overtime. So you get paid your 80 and your vacation, whatever. On their world, their vacation is calculated in. What if you gave them over, if they got over 80, or they got an overtime situation, they get paid for the overtime, but vacation doesn't calculate into their hours? That'd be an easier formula for the program to do, you know.
So then they still would get their overtime.
Yeah,
And they would still get their vacation at their regular time.
break them down to look at a week. So on week 1, they had 72 hours in. So that's basically 32 hours overtime.
Yep.
Week 2, they have 40 hours of vacation or 30 hours of vacation, whatever they take.
That's straight time.
That's just vacation time. It doesn't calculate, add into the 72 and give them more overtime. They won't get overtime for the vacation time. They'll still get their overtime for the hours they actually worked.
But in the case where some of them like to flex.
But then they would just flex.
Okay, so that's...
Yeah. If they take vacation, it'll kill it from adding those vacation hours into more overtime hours, but they still get the overtime for the hours they worked on that first week. If they flex, then that's going to take away from the overtime hours because they're not using vacation. So you can trigger off the vacation sick.
So they
because sometimes
their
it's sick
overtime
too. If you work a 78-hour week, on Monday you might not be feeling good. You're going to take 1 or 2 days off because you're just exhausted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So it's not always vacation. Sometimes it's so. On a
So if you choose to do that, you can get straight compensation for those days off.
Right,
And you
but you
get
still-
overtime for the hours that you
overtime
put
for the
in.
hours you worked that
Overtime,
first week.
But you're not accumulating
or the
overtime
people that are
for-
already
And that's
in
what
that
I-
in the policy manual, not for everybody, just the people that are listed in the policy manual.
And I think that's what we're trying to
That would be
get
the
to.
easiest
Yeah.
formula to do, so we're not having to do a ton of manual
Right.
changing of the
Yeah.
payroll,
Yeah.
correct? You guys do
And
the
would
payroll.
this fix the issue then that Doug has brought up, that
Yes.
getting the
Yeah,
overtime for the
yeah,
first week
that would resolve
overage,
that
but the
issue also.
vacation doesn't result in it?
Correct.
But it won't
Correct.
fix it all.
It never does.
I know.
No. There's always
Here's
exceptions
our
to the
other
rule.
example I'll give you that we do have trouble with, and there's, I don't know if there's a fix. We get our guys that work their 40 hours a week, they have 3 days off. During that 3 days, we have somebody that gets sick, get injured or whatever, we call them back after they've already worked their 40 hours, or they had a vacation in one of those days, and we ask them to come back. Do we expect them to come back on regular hours on their day off, or do we expect to pay them overtime on their day off?
Well, if they've already got their 40 hours in, then it would be overtime.
But let's say they had 1 day vacation early in the week, and then they put in the rest of their days, and they took 1 day off, they worked the rest of their week, now they're on their 3 days off. Now we ask them to come in. Are we going to take away their vacation from earlier in the week and then make them work for straight time on their day off? So now that instead of 3 days off, they have 2 days off, okay? I can almost guarantee most of our employees are going to say, I'm staying home. I'm not going to take my vacation away. I took my vacation. I'm staying home. So now what do we do to fill our minimums over in the jail? You see,
But wouldn't
you see where our problems
wouldn't
come
their
in.
hours calculate, say, so they got 8 hours of vacation sitting here, and they got their 40, and then they work an extra 8-hour shift or 10-hour shift, so they're going to have 10 extra hours above their regular shift plus the 8 hours of vacation. So they're still going to get time and a half for the hours over 40.
Not when what we're talking here is to try to make them take the sick leave away and do that, but we're also asking them to take their day off to come back to work because they're filling in for somebody else. And that's my concern, is the morale will tell them, no, I'm staying home. Or, I'm sick today, I can't come in. You know, and I don't want ours to do that. You know, we will have that. I don't agree with it myself, but that's the way it's going to happen. And then we're going to run short.
Sure.
Now, does that happen all the time? Absolutely not.
Right.
But it happens more frequently than our 70-hour week thing, because we got a lot more employees in the jail.
So is there a way to accommodate that above and beyond regularly scheduled hours? Because it's essentially a call-out. arrangement. You're calling people that are not scheduled.
Correct.
To fill in.
Absolutely.
You're
If you're-
leading into the next one.
If you have a call-out selection for that,
But if
I mean, if you have...
But
a-
if it's call out and it puts you above, you know, it's 40 hours, it's a separate deal.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you got to your 40,
Mhm.
if it's a call out in and above and beyond your regularly scheduled hours,
So
then the fact that part of your
half.
40 was covered by vacation that was scheduled,
Mhm.
then you're being called out at the request of to accommodate.
It would just be call-out hours instead of normal hours then,
Commissioner,
which would be
all
time and
time.
a half.
We are not unique to Davison, Cottington, Meade, or any of the other, how do they do this 24/7 thing? I mean,
Manually.
rather than try to create a whole thing here, what is the background of some of the other counties that are equal to Brookings, Cottington, Minnetonka, Pennington? What do they have for their 24/7? I guess
Highway
I'd be
patrol.
interested.
Um,
I mean, it seems like we're trying to be different from anybody else. I mean, there's got to be a set plan in this state with all the other counties.
the way the
Go
state does
ahead.
it is you work it. So if it's up to, if somebody calls in sick, then they take sick leave and they're short. That's for that staff or that position or whatever it may be, they would be sick. But if they're, if say Christy Nome closes the state for whatever reason, then the highway patrol goes out and work. They get no additional benefit, no nothing. That's, you're scheduled to work, you're an essential employee, you need to be there. And there's some other counties who will do disciplinary action. If your essential employee does not show up because they can't be there, well, depending on the circumstances or the distance you are away from where you need to work, you can get disciplinary action for that. So say if you live in Aberdeen and you don't show up to work when you're requested to show up to work, then you can get disciplinary action for that. But say if you live in Westport and you need to drive in and there's currently no travel advised, well, you know, I don't expect you to be there. We'll get somebody from within town who needs to be there.
It's been 24 years since I worked for the Aberdeen City Fire Department. How do they do it? That's 24/7. Have you had any conversation with HR over at the city on their fire department,
Mhm.
24/7?
Yep, I got their policy manual and they're in the process of updating their policy manual also.
Because that brings up a lot of the situation that you talked about.
Well, I don't think we're gonna solve it all today, but I think you kinda had an idea on the third one that we're looking at,
Mhm.
where we wanna be, but it doesn't solve the one problem you mentioned, when you have the sick person, and, I mean, everything else other than that was kind of addressed in that.
Yep.
So I would say just update it with that so far. If we have any epiphanies over the next week that we can add in for fixing that last problem that Dave brought up, then, but I think it's gonna be better than what it was.
So take out the vacation and the sick and the holiday to be used as overtime for those departments.
But we're allowing that first week over
Yep,
and
and that
above.
will be a programming thing that within that first week, if they have over 40 hours, they're allowed overtime, but just removing that sick and vacation piece to say that if there's any sick
To
and
address
vacation.
them, yep.
They're not gonna get overtime on the sick and vacation time.
Yep.
If they do work overtime, they get paid the overtime.
Correct.
Right.
And I would say in the case where you have to call somebody in, that's up to you to say, you know what, whomever you're working for is gonna have to pick up an extra shift later in the week for you. And we could do that also.
So that's
Well,
what
we
we
try-
gotta
Yeah, I
keep
know,
thinking
I
on.
know.
We
It's
try
easier
to-
said than
We
done.
try to let them do that themselves, we try to stay
Yeah.
away
Mhm.
from ordering to do that.
And that's
but
fine.
That's not right, I mean, and a lot of times they'll do it, hey,
Yep.
can you work for me? I'm gonna be, you know, and we try that, and we do that, they do do that.
I could throw something in from being in the healthcare field for 12 years, right? That's
Sure.
24/7 too, right? So when I was a biomed, we'd work our shifts and it was 40-hour work week, okay? 7:30 in the morning till 4. And we're 24/7, so the phone could ring at any minute, so you'd get a call, you go to work. So what they would do at the end of that, make sure you stay, you know, within your work week, they'd have you flex time, is what they would do. Obviously, certain circumstances, you're towards the end of the pay period, you're into overtime anyway at some point, or, you know, you can't flex at all if you're right at the tail end of it anyway, no matter if you want to, so, that's how they handle a lot of that, they just let you flex it, and yeah, if you're running overtime, well, then, yeah, you know, they kind of cringe a little bit, but you'd have to, you know, you'd have to do it, so, that's how they handle it with the biomeds.
our IT department, you know, any of that staffing that would have to be, you know, could get called in any moment. You know, that's 15,000 employees that are dealing with there. I mean, you know, not all IT environment for that number, but, I mean, there's a big chunk of people.
Yep, and on the nursing side of things, if you had too many employees there at one time, they would send you home and put you on call. And they would pay you, say, $2 an hour for each hour that you're on call. But if they called you back in, you had to be there within a certain time frame. And it's the time they called you, and from that time, your pay started until your shift ended.
Right, and the only thing with, like, I'll throw in, like, for us, you know, on the biomed side of it, so, say you're getting to Friday, all of a sudden it's like, oh, 12 o'clock, you know, I've got 4 hours, I got a flex here, you're gone. From our standpoint, we can't do that because we have to have staffing to cover it, you know, so that's the kicker for us, you know, the biomed.
That's where it gets to be self-perpetuating, because if
Yeah.
you flex somebody scheduled hours, then you've got a hole that needs to be filled, so you gotta bring somebody else in.
Right.
Who then what, is gonna have to flex that?
Right, that's the problem, yeah, and, you know, they can't be without their deputies, and I can't be without my dispatchers to be able to do that, you know, so I will let my staff flex as long as I have coverage, you know.
Right.
You know, if they need to go off for maybe, you know, this or that, or have a emergency, and they said, geez, I don't, you know, hate to use medication, well, you can work a few hours later, whatever, I'm fine with that, you know, as long as they get their 80 in by the end of the pay period, or 40, I'm good, you know,
And if they're willing to do that above and beyond, then they need to be compensated at overtime for that.
Yeah, so.
Okay, well, let's move on to number 4 then.
Okay, the callback pay.
Call back or call out.
How would you like to word it? Okay, right now, it says, when an employee is called into work, he or she shall receive a minimum of 3 hours of work time to be applied to his or her total hours for the work week. I just threw this proposed one together because I know this is going to be a discussion. Right now, what I'm proposing is applies when an employee is called back to perform work outside the standard workday. The Fair Labor Standard Act does not require Brown County to pay a minimum number of hours when an employee is called back, but Brown County is required to pay the employee their base pay or appropriate overtime. So,
Questions on that one?
I got something on that one. Sorry.
that's why this one may go into effect.
Because this one kind of tied into some stuff that we had going on already, and that's how I've been handling it, is per the other arrangement, where my assistant will get a call about maybe some staffing or scheduling, or maybe questions on a functionality in the CAD system, you know.
Call at work or call at home?
At home. Okay. So then we put in the callback hours for her, because she's an hourly employee, gets called at home. She lives in Langford. She's not going to drive in to take care of a staffing issue or a CAD issue. She can handle that over the phone. So I actually made a phone call to my previous employer about this to see how they handle it. I couldn't remember what their numbers were, so I asked them. And I talked to them this morning. And so this is back, you know, when I was an hourly employee as a biomed. If you're past your normal working hour, you get a call, and it's an automatic 2-hour callback. Whether you came into work or you got a phone call. It was either way. It was right across the board. It was 2 hours. And if you had to come into work, if you exceeded that 2 hour, you'd clock in like you normally would then when you go in. If you exceeded that 2 hour period, then it's overtime pay from that point on, okay? Otherwise, they umbrella it under 2 hours, whether you can take care of it over the phone or come in and take care of it. And anything else, if there's maybe another event within that 2 hour window, it's still, you can't double dip. You still get paid for that 2 hour time regardless. Sometimes it takes several calls, and it can extend out over a period of time. As long as they're documenting when that call came in to when their last call received on it falls in that 2 hour window, it's all lumped under that 2 hour stop.
Considered one call.
Yes. Yep.
And that might be part of our issue, isn't it? Where we're getting, if they get multiple calls, they're putting in multiple callback
Correct.
requests.
Correct. So yeah, so in this instance, or let's say a Sunday, and this person got called like in the morning. I don't know when the phone calls were made, but anyways, 2 times were entered for that Sunday. So this person got 6 hours of overtime on that Sunday for 2 phone calls, is what was logged.
And that's where the key, I think, comes in, is they need to document that window when those calls came in. I mean, plain and simple, it needs to be documented somehow, you know. And my previous employer was a little different animal, because we could actually clock in via phone if we had to, you know, I had a different whole setup that way. But otherwise, yeah, it'd have to be, you know, the honor system, if you want me to say it that way.
Well, I
mean,
think the
honestly,
policy would have to be changed to reflect what we're already doing if we're not going to change what we're doing, because it says when an employee is called in to work. To me, that means physically, called in to work.
Not receiving phone calls.
Exactly.
But legally, I don't
So
think-
already, we're already in violation, so we'd have to update the policy.
Because legally, an hourly employee, if they get called after hours and it's work related, they have to get paid, right?
Correct, yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
They
But it
paid
doesn't-
or
but-
work
But it
adjusted.
doesn't
Yeah.
require you to pay a minimum, like
Correct.
we are now, 3 hours.
I'll just add this, because the bulk of them I take, because I'm salary, doesn't matter, I don't get called back, so it doesn't matter. But there are times when I'm out of town or my guys gotta do it. So when I call them in, when they know they're on call because I'm out of town or whatever, then, you know, that eliminates them going out and drinking, that eliminates, so they're sacrificing their personal life to be on call. Whether they get called, they only get paid if they get called in. So, you know, but when they get called in, if they're gonna get called in, we get called in a fair amount of times to the jail, to dispatch.
Do they physically come into work
Yes.
though? Okay.
Yes, they do, the hourly ones do,
Yep.
yes. So, you know, for them to come in, you know, give all this up and come in for a 20-minute fix at the jail, right now they can pay 3 hours. If it's 20 minutes, it's gonna be harder and harder to get them to do that. Not that I'm saying they should get the 3 hours, but we need to find some happy medium that they are giving up something, so they should get compensated for that. They're giving up their personal life to be on call, whether they get called in or not.
But see, I think that's where the two differences are, is your employees are physically coming into
Yeah.
work versus a phone call to correct a scheduling.
But not all the
issue
time.
or-
She will, you know, sometimes they will have to come in. I mean,
Yeah, and that's
And
different,
if they
yeah.
do, I think they should fully be paid for it. I think
Right.
the question is, when you're taking a call that might last 5 minutes, it might last 30 minutes, that you're getting paid 3 hours for taking a phone call. I know she's not the head of your department, but as an assistant, second in command, that's part of, I would say, maybe your job, and you should be compensated for it, but to what degree is what the proposed change would be.
And if you're getting 4 calls a day, putting in for 4 periods, that's 12 hours. And that's the way it's being handled now, it sounds like,
Mhm.
which
Yeah, I
is
mean,
right.
because my guys can get called in on a weekend for 2 different problems. One is jail, one is dispatch, you know, so is there a line to draw there too? I mean, because it's 2 different callbacks.
So to
If
me, it
it's the
would
same
be,
problem, I would call it one myself.
And that's why my previous employer umbrella it like that, you know, a 2-hour, basically a bubble, essentially. If you get a call at, say, you know, noon, and then you get another call at 1:59, you're still within that 2-hour bubble. You can't double dip that. They need to provide documentation of when those calls came in, which is pretty easy if you look on your cell phone and see when you received your calls. So, you know, that's going to be the hard part about it, is just making sure that documentation is, you know, kept and legitimate, you know.
For me, it's easy because they're gonna come here, no matter where they go,
Right.
they can clock in.
yep, so we could do one for physically coming in, you get the minimum pay. If you take a phone call, I'm just throwing this out there, longer than 20 minutes, then you get a callback pay. But if it's under 20 minutes, you need to work adjust that or flex that throughout the work week.
Would that be fair?
I don't know, what do you think?
I don't know what to think about that, because she, you know, she does take a lot of hers are the staffing calls that she takes. If somebody's, like she got one the other day, where they called, started getting ill while they're on the shift, right? So she had to go through and try and figure out, I gotta find somebody else.
Is
to
there
go.
someone else that could learn a little bit about the scheduling in order to
Well,
alleviate some of that?
And that's kind of that's where I was gonna go.
Because if I'm on vacation, I don't want to get a
I know,
scheduling call.
right.
Yeah.
And which she did. She had several of them over her Christmas vacation.
Well, if you're in
She took a weekend.
Mexico, what are you gonna do?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm going with my shift supervisor piece. That's going to kind of alleviate some of that, and that's the whole point of me implementing the shift supervisors, is a lot of that's going to roll on to them. Now granted, you know, there's going to be a couple days a week that they're not going to be available either, but for the most part, they they should catch a lot.
That should help a lot, that should cover.
Absolutely.
With all due respect, Kent, can they call you? Your salary?
Yeah, if I'm available and around, yeah. You know, I got a call the other day, and I'm sitting there,
Right.
I was working a hockey game in the penalty box. I sure can't walk out on the ice and leave, you know, so I had to, I said, yeah, you're gonna have to hang on here, because I'm stuck here, you know,
Sure.
so, you know, there are certain circumstances where, that's why Sarah's in the place she's in, too.
Sure.
You know?
And I don't think we want to discourage those type of employees. Same with Patty. If I'm gone, she's taking calls, and you'd be surprised at how many phone calls some of us get on the weekends and holidays and evenings and the middle of the night. I mean, they're just phone calls, but I'm still...
So we know.
Yeah, we're not surprised.
And the other
We
piece
get
of it
same
is,
calls.
does she become, does she become salary?
You don't want those people not answering their phone either.
Right.
You know?
And that's the question we have too. If you're in a supervisor position, maybe we should look at a salary where we wouldn't have to worry about this then,
You know, that's the
overtime and all
other
that.
option.
But-
Of course, her salary's gonna have to change a little bit to reflect that, I'm sure. I don't know how that all, that's above my pay grade, I'm figuring out how you run those numbers, but, you know, that's another option to it.
That's something we can look at, I guess, if he wants to. I mean,
You know.
Okay, so I think on the proposed, we know we need to change it because we're already not following what we have. I like this language, I don't know if other commissioners have questions, but we'll have to add something then for the actual calls that are not coming in when you're at home. I don't know if you guys like that language, if it's over 20 minutes, or, you know, we'll have to create something to that nature.
Or put a set amount on a call, each call.
we do that for the nurses.
Yeah?
When they get a call, what is it,
It's $15 for a phone call, and then if they have to physically come in here, it's $35.
Okay.
And if
that's
it,
something we can look at, we can
Well,
talk
the coming in,
about
we don't have to worry about, because that would be
But they're-
but
clocking
if
in.
it,
contract. Yeah, I was gonna say, it's a
it's
little-
a certain time limit,
It's a little
then it's
different.
another flat fee to 25, I think, for the next hour or two, or whatever.
A little bit different.
And I think they
They're
should-
contracted too, they're not a...
Okay.
And the employee should know, hey, we call Kent first, because he's first in command and might have the answer, and then we work our way down.
So-
There'd be $15 for person.
On the employees coming in and clocking in, obviously they're on overtime, I mean, because it's after hours. So is there no minimum or
Minimum for what?
for them being on the
Are you gonna
call?
keep that 3 hours if they come into work?
Or are you gonna just go on time work? That's my, I don't think it needs to be 3 hours, I think that's...
It used to be 2, and then
Yeah, it used to be
the
2.
commission upped it to 3
You know?
years
Wanna go
ago.
back to 2?
Yeah, it used to be 2.
I mean-
2 hours or comp time.
Yeah.
I think my guys would be happy with an hour.
Yeah, I was surprised.
You know, if they come in for 20 minutes, I get a full hour, you know, which is time and a half anyway. I mean, for my guys, that would be fine. But like I said, you give up a lot of your personal life, so you gotta kinda
Yeah.
weigh the balance, but you don't wanna sell the farm either.
Yeah. We thought 2 hours was reasonable, because if you do, all of a sudden, you got to drive and you're driving in, you call back, well, no, you don't have to be here, and you've driven for 20 minutes, okay, well, then,
Right.
you know.
And that would happen when I was in healthcare. I would be halfway to the hospital and, yeah, we got another IV pump. I guess we don't need you now. Well, but I took that call, so they just umbrella it under 2 hours on that.
Sure. Okay, questions from the commissioner? Direction for Erica, go down to the 2 hours, put something in there about the actual calls that aren't coming physically to work, about what we talked about. Any other comments, questions?
I think 2 is more reasonable than 3, yeah.
Okay.
Integrate that in.
Okay, so you'll update all those, send to department heads, send to the commission?
You know, one thing I want to say thanks for that, when you have these, send them out to the department head so we can read them.
Yeah.
That way, we can talk with Erica, and not like this where they all come in and, you know, it's just
Well, I think it's a good
benefit
conversation.
for us to, if it's positive or negative, or we have an idea or you have better ideas, then we, you know, that's just working together. Appreciate that.
All right.
Well, we appreciate, you know, the employee's dedication and so forth, and they need to be fairly compensated. It's especially with, you know, some of these departments that make these kind of commitments, and it's unique, but it's not unique in the world. You're talking about, you know, your situation, we've got plenty of others, you know, private situations where there's 24/7 coverage, you know, and I can think of, you know, a dozen, same as you can, right off the top of my head, everything from, you know, the railroad to, you know, healthcare and assisted living situations and things like that that have commitments that have to be met, and you've got people that are sick and can't make it, and
the rest of those things. So, you know, they're things we need to deal with appropriately. It's not totally unique, but it is unique in the grand scheme of things. It just needs to be dealt
And
with.
some of it definitely has to do with the budget restraints that the county's got too. I mean, we're dealing with some real issues with revenue and expense, so that all plays a part in this whole thing.
Well, it's always like the department trying to help you out with things that we,
Yep.
you know, like our guys, they actually do flex time and they know, appreciate it.
Yep, and we
They
do.
get tired of working too.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah, we have some who abuse it and
Yeah.
wreck it for everybody else, so.
So we do appreciate it, and we appreciate your feedback too, thoughtful consideration.
But to get all the commissioners in one room to get all their feedback too, we have to do it during commission meetings,
Oh,
so, but yeah.
No, but it's nice having the heads up where
Yeah.
you say, this is what we're looking at, and then we can get out and this is our opinion, and that's what I
Provide
like,
that
is
side
the
of it.
communication part. Once you guys, we have to enforce it, you know, we
Yeah.
want to make sure it's correct. So, I just wanna say
Thank
that.
you, guys.
Thanks, everybody, for your input.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
All right, on to your items.
All right.
All right, we have minutes from the January 7th reorg meeting.
Move.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. Any questions or corrections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Claims.
Move. Second.
We got a motion and a second. We have Pikert and Leaf, I think. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
HR report.
One thing on that, I was wondering if we could hold off a few weeks. I asked Mark and Dave if we could take another look at the home detention area. Third quarter of 2019, there was 23 kids on our home detention program. 16 of those kids are post-adjudication, meaning that the state's in charge of them, not us. And only 7 of them were pre-adjudication. We've got authorization for 3 full-time, 3 part-time in that home detention program. So instead of, I think it's great to put Sam, keep that part in there and promote him to where the former director used to be, but I wondered, instead of filling instantly, if we can wait a couple weeks and just kind of take a bigger view on that and why it is we're doing the state's piece of that job.
I would move that we would
I'll second.
adjust the...
So we're not approving the request to fill.
Okay, so motion to approve as corrected. Any other questions or additions to the HR? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Who was the second?
Aye.
Sutton. Thank you.
Lottery permit.
Move it.
Second.
Got a motion from Pikert, second from Weiss. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Quarter 4 interest.
Move.
Moved by Sutton,
Second.
seconded by Weiss. All in favor on the interest, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Emergency management, state and local quarterly report.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Feldheim, second by Pikert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
We'll get it back.
Interstate Power System 2020 generator contract.
Move.
Motion from Sutton, second from Weiss. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion
If that's
carries.
not complete enough, we have a problem.
Legal assignment.
Move.
Moved by Feldheim, seconded by Sutton. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Tax fees authorized advertising the sale.
Move.
Second.
Moved by Pikert, seconded by Feldheim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
nay. Motion carries.
Abatement.
Move.
Second.
Motion from Sutton, second from Weiss. All in favor of those abatements, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
That is everything on our list.
Okay. Any personnel or contracts or anything for exec? We're good this week? Okay. Next week, Dwayne had reminded me, we do have a city, just an informal joint with the city. We've been doing those quarterly meetings to keep up on stuff. Is there anybody that wants to attend that? Because I can sure sit out. If not, it's 1:30, did you say?
130 City Hall, yeah, second floor conference room.
Is there anybody that wants to attend that?
It's not a formal meeting, we just get together, brainstorm, talk about county, city issues that maybe affect both of us, but really not a formal agenda, just informal.
Just something to think about. We can decide next week who's going, or I can go, I don't have to go. And then, anything else from the commissioners? Anything else coming up? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just if I could
Okay.
just, if we want to, kind of, we were going to put it off till this week, the Edwards representative, just so
Oh, yeah.
if we're gonna
Did we
make
get
a
there?
decision.
I guess I don't have a list of the full board yet.
From the sanitation
Yeah,
and the...
we haven't heard who
Yeah,
they're
so I think once we know who all 4 members are, then we'll
Recognize the whole thing.
recognize the whole thing.
who the other 3 are at least,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you'd be good on that. When we get it. Anybody else? Stuff for
Move
the
to
good of-
adjourn.
Motion from Sutton.
Second.
Second from Pikert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We'll be adjourned until next week. Thank